Welcome, dear viewers, to our format Natural Medicine. The topic of cholesterol is always an exciting topic. Is it good or bad? Where are the limits? Who sets them? And to what extent is cholesterol an important survival agent in our body, which also supports important functions? I'm going to discuss all of this today with our medical director of the Biomed Center Sonnenberg Clinic. I'm very happy that he's here today, Professor Dr. Thomas Rau. Hello, dear Thomas.
Hello.
It's great that you're here. I'm also happy that I can talk to you about cholesterol, because I keep finding that the limits have been slipping down over the years. And I still don't quite know who does it and why. Are there studies on it? Or is it done at random? Does it do anything for people, such low cholesterol levels?
That's a lot of questions in one.
It all draws on the same topic.
I'm very happy to be able to talk about this topic, because it's a very important topic these days. The cholesterol reducer Lipitor made around 18 billion sales last year. One drug in America against cholesterol. So that's a huge consumption, I can say neutrally. Whether it's justified or not is another question. I find that my people, fortunately in our center we have a lot of healthy people who just want to do a holistic checkup. And when I look at them, they are health-conscious people from the street, so to speak. So who comes to me? These are the health-conscious people, not just the passive consumers. And they don't have normal cholesterol levels. All other values are more or less within the norm, but cholesterol is always too high. I hardly have any people that would have to be a strict vegan who would be really in the normal range of cholesterol. Why? And now I'm getting a little aggressive, because the normal values are not normal. I've been practicing as a doctor for a long time, had a huge general medical office for a long time, so internistic general medical office. And even there, the values were relatively low, but the normal values were significantly higher. Now the normal values are 5 or 5.2, depending on the upper limit value. But no one has 5.2 millimoles. And in the past the normal values were 6.5.
What value are you talking about now? Overall cholesterol LDL, HDL.
In Switzerland we have different units of measure. I think that would be.
We have 220 upper limit. It went down to 200.
It went down to 200, but no one has 200. So you go to a normal doctor, who may take the background of cholesterol into account less. And he says, wow, you have 220, you absolutely have to have statins. Yes, and do you know that statins are even preventive? Yes, well, then he said two things wrong. So in any case, this is how people get cholesterol. That is of course extremely attractive. But yes, that is extremely attractive. But what does it look like for the patient? And maybe we should talk about that. What is behind the cholesterol? And what is behind the drugs that are given? These are the so-called statins, which are administered against the laboratory cholesterol.
Where I would like to go into the depths a little bit again, is with HDL and LDL. It is no longer encrypted separately in Germany. That means, if you go to the GP still gets the total cholesterol displayed. And how far does it play a role for you to differentiate again what are HDL and LDL value? Is that what it's called in Switzerland?
Yes. High-density lipoproteins and low-density lipoproteins. These are the long chain and the short chain. And you have to know that cholesterol is only one of many substances that are in this category of lipids or lipid molecules processing substances.
Kategorie der Lipide oder der lipidmolekülverarbeitenden Stoffe drin ist.
We don't just do LDL cholesterol, low-density cholesterol, bad cholesterol and high-density cholesterol, good cholesterol.
Das schlechte Cholesterin und High-Density, das gute Cholesterin.
No, we test about 30 different fatty acids. And it's not even much more expensive, this fatty acid profile analysis. But it is hardly done, but says 1,000 times more. Namely, does your body have an inflammation tendency or not? Or does it have a fattening tendency or not? Or how is the blood grain, not the grain, but the viscosity, influenced? These are all the fats in it. And so only measuring cholesterol only benefits those who want to prescribe drugs. And it doesn't really matter, I can go into that later, because it doesn't say how the cholesterol is processed in the body. That is the criterion.
I think that if a doctor analyzes these parameters of the different lipid structures, then he must also have the tool to deal with it. I have the experience that when I came back, the client said, the doctor said that HDL cannot be influenced by nutrition. And when such statements come, it is clear that you don't go into the depth, you go into the analysis again. Because if you fail with that tool in the realization, it is nice when there are these laboratory values, but if no one has the competence in the regulation, in general for the people, that is another factor.
Yes, that is expressed very politely, as you ask now. I think there is simply ignorance behind it. When a doctor tells a patient that HDL cannot be influenced by nutrition, that is simply not true. And I have 20 years of experience. For example, we make these liver cleanse, that is the detoxification cure. And while it doesn't even take long, a few days of preparation at home, our diet change, only for a few days, 5 days, plus activation of the liver and intestinal lavage and so on. And then we tested cholesterol and HDL and LDL for years with each patient, because that is in the consciousness of the person. And practically everyone came down with cholesterol.
How do you explain that? What was activated or changed in the liver so that this regulation took place?
Thank you for this question. Now comes the important thing, namely, what does cholesterol do? Yes, dear God did not just give us something bad on our way, namely cholesterol. No, cholesterol has a fundamentally important meaning. It is in the body the precursor of all sexual and adrenal hormones. Without being able to remove cholesterol in the body, We do not make testosterone, progesterone, pregnenolone, estrogen, and also no cortisone.
Testosteron, kein Progesteron, kein Pregnenolon, kein Östrogen und auch kein Cortison.
We need this precursor and especially the THEA. Now it's getting a little more complicated. A very important anabolic substance has nothing to do with sexuality. It is a cell-building anabolic substance that we need to be able to renew cells. We cannot form them if we do not have cholesterol. Now the person with high cholesterol comes here. Why does he have high cholesterol? Because he can't do the abortion process. But if I look down the drawer, how is his DHEA? What are his adrenal hormones? What are his not sexual hormones? These also, but how are all these necessary substances down there, with the one who has such high cholesterol?
Wie sind seine Nicht-Sexualhormone, die auch, und wie sind denn alle diese notwendigen Substanzen unten bei dem, der so hohes Cholesterin hat?
Then they are reduced.
Dann sind die vermindert.
And these people then have a reduced rebuilding power, a reduced renewal power of the cells.
Wiederaufbaukraft, eine verminderte Erneuerungskraft der Zellen.
That means they age faster.
Sie altern schneller.
Now the statistics come and say, yes, who has high cholesterol, he has premature aging, and his heart becomes weaker and he gets strokes.
Vorzeitige Alterung und sein Herz wird schwächer und kriegt Hirnschläge.
Yes, why?
Warum?
Because he can no longer build his cells in exactly the same way. He is missing these substances that he would need to not become degenerative. Namely, he needs the DHEA.
How do you explain that? At least that was my observation, that slim athletes had high cholesterol levels again and again in such examinations. So as if the body also uses the cholesterol for cell renewal.
No, the cell renewal comes from DHEA, from pregnenolone. In women from progesterone, in men from testosterone, which is then used further down in this metabolism process. The athletes, the excessively unhealthy athletes, unfortunately there are a lot of them. That's why I'm an opponent of excessive sports activity.
Now you're becoming sympathetic to me.
No, wait. Because of the reduction of their adrenal activity and the reduction of their liver activity, they have this degradation lower in front of a lot of other activities. An athlete who is slim and has high cholesterol, he does wrong sports. I can say that with certainty.
I find that exciting. What does he get if he has a wrong sport? Too high LDL values. Or, the total cholesterol can go up sometimes, because the HDL value is very good. And then the total cholesterol goes up, but the ratio itself is still top.
That happens quite often with slim people, these stringy, skinny people. They often have relatively high HDL, which would be good values.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. But that would be okay, right?
Yes, that would be good in theory. But we don't just look at the cholesterol, we look at all the human lipids. And if I look at this athlete and he has, for example, high arachidic acid or linoleic acid or palmitic acid, also such a bad one, I can talk about it later, then he has an increased inflammatory capacity. And these are the people who later have early degenerative symptoms after the sport. Yes. Why do cyclists and joggers and marathon runners have such a massive accumulation of degenerative diseases relatively early? Because the whole metabolism is not right, not just because they have overloaded the joints.
So could you come to the clinic as an athlete and say, I want to have a complete checkup, whether all my metabolism processes and my sport are really useful to me and not counterinduced?
Yes, there are a lot of good sports physiologists who know that by now. I think it is known in sports, in really good top sports, by now. That is why it is increasingly known that you should be a vegetarian if you do intensive sports. Because you have much less of this phenomenon of premature degeneration. So the answer is yes, the athlete should come to a holistic checkup where I can look at the metabolism of the lipids, not just the high cholesterol levels. That's useless.
Yes. What happens to people in the body who take the statins, which are now on a cholesterol reducer? What consequences or side effects can arise?
Yes, now I have to be careful what I say, because this is one of the very few topics where I like to seem a bit polarizing. We have a wonderful medicine. School medicine has made huge progress, but it has made a fatal mistake. In my personal opinion, this is the introduction of statins. Because these statins have a significant metabolic metabolism effect in the background, which is really bad and which massively increases the advantage of lower cholesterol in the long term.
Den Vorteil des tieferen Cholesterins massiv aufwiegt.
So if you take statins, it's the only way I can say, dear patient, you'd better stop yesterday than today.
Hören Sie lieber gestern auf als heute.
And you don't have to stop today at all. Then it will take about 6 weeks before the statin level is really down, because it's a long-term chemical drug.
Unten ist, weil das ist ja ein langzeitwirksames chemisches Medikament.
The statini have to say, they bind the cholesterol and make a practically insoluble molecule.
Die binden das Cholesterin und machen ein praktisch unlösliches Molekül.
So the cholesterol is bound to the statin and then transported to the liver.
An die Statine und wird dann in die Leber transportiert und
And in the liver, if the patient can still do it to some extent, it is metabolized.
Wird es vermetabolisiert.
But that's why, at least the doctors are looking at it, the liver values go up to the sick values if you take statins.
Bis in die krankhaften Werte an, wenn man Statine
Because the liver is then burdened by the breakdown of this almost insoluble molecule. That's really a problem.
A general practitioner gets a protocol. Take people after a heart attack. There is this standard medical protocol. They get a package of statins, no matter what cholesterol they have. And there is a lot of pressure. If you don't stop that, there are risks for the patient. There is a lot of fear and pressure for the doctor. How do I get this sovereignty as a family doctor? I wouldn't give it to my mother. I am often asked, would you give it to your brother or your wife? Then my answer is, of course not. And I like my brother. I think we're getting into another topic, namely guideline medicine.
Ich denke, wir kommen in ein anderes Thema hinein, nämlich die Richtlinienmedizin.
Where everything is provided for the doctor.
Den Arzt vorgegeben ist.
The poor family doctor has no choice but to act according to guidelines.
Als nach Richtlinien zu handeln.
These are the guidelines that you have to follow.
Die man befolgen muss.
Otherwise, I don't know what the consequences will be.
Für Konsequenzen.
This is a very bad development. But we have it with cancer therapy, with rheumatism therapy. We have it with a lot of things. Guidelines that no longer take into account individuals. And that was simply under the influence of the pharmaceutical companies. Today we know that the WHO is very strongly suppressed by pharmacology. These guidelines were set up. I think that's really bad. That's why I really know my way around the statins. When the statins are in the body, they form this molecule together with the cholesterol. The laboratory value goes down nicely. But the patient is even sicker. You only measure the laboratory value. I don't treat laboratory values. I treat individuals, people. And the laboratory value is not relevant in this case. So, this molecule is then brought into the liver. But not every patient can stand that. And others just can't stand it or store it in their muscles. And then they get this weakness. They get muscle weakness, especially in men. Or they get muscle pain. Fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia in women over 45 years is over half of them statin dependent. Unbelievable. And then there are billions of costs in the back. Our medicine is on the wrong track in terms of metabolism. And the second thing is, if you bind this cholesterol with the statins and then bring it anywhere, into the liver or into the muscles, then you can't form any follow-up hormones. The DHEA, the next lowest, the pregnenolone, the progesterone, you can read everything in my book, are then reduced in a heightened degeneration tendency in these patients. There is a very large study, the Scandinavian cholesterol study, made over years by millions of people, an incredibly seriously conducted study, which showed a clear connection between cholesterol values and the frequency of cardiovascular diseases. And because of this Scandinavian cholesterol study, the guidelines are based on the fact that high cholesterol is dangerous. But the cause of people getting sick more and more, degenerative suffering, not only more muscle problems, but also more heart problems, brain problems, is not the cholesterol, but the reduced DHEA. Then, but this will be kept secret, follow-up studies were done on these people with high cholesterol values and looked at whether statin enrichment over the years also had an improvement. And it was seen that the release of statin could not eliminate the cholesterol effect epidemiologically. A huge deception. Deception is certainly wrong, but a huge deception. If the patient is sitting in front of the doctor and let's assume he has a total cholesterol of 350, then the doctor says that's too high, that will definitely lead to a stroke or some kind of vessel constriction. Now the question is, if I don't want to take statins, what can I do now? So, of course, you're now dealing with the holistic approach. Let's say a family doctor is watching. What could he do now?
The family doctor must inform himself, that would be his medical duty anyway, that he continues to educate himself. And then he would see that he can improve the reduction of cholesterol to the following molecules by taking vitamin C, zinc, vitamin B3. These are the three most important elements.
Molekülen begünstigen kann, indem Vitamin C, Zink, Vitamin B3 nimmt. Das sind die drei wichtigsten Elemente.
And if we look at our degenerative patients, cardiovascular patients, how are they doing with the zinc values, with the B3 values or B vitamin values in general, then they often have a reduction.
Mit den Zinkwerten, mit den B3-Werten oder B6, also überhaupt B-Vitaminwerte, dann haben die sehr häufig Verminderung.
That means they can't get rid of the cholesterol at all, and that's where the problem is. And we're back to an automolecular therapy necessity.
Wir sagen dem halt orthomolekularen Therapienotwendigkeit.
We give people zinc, vitamin B complexes, and vitamin C.
Und Vitamin C.
You could prove all of this, that people have a reduction of it.
Eine Verminderung dessen haben.
So it's so simple, very logical, as biological medicine is logical for the body.
Logische Medizin ja bio für den Körper logisch ist.
I think you have to say that in Germany a family doctor doesn't have time for a patient anymore. You get 30 euros per quarter. The structures for a family doctor are like this. How do you want to explain this? All the microbiological and nutrient complexes, in this system you hardly have a chance to advise a patient in a holistic way.
Yes, 3,000 doctors have emigrated from Germany and come to Switzerland in recent years. Why? Because it's simply no longer sustainable, how medicine has developed in Germany. I'm Swiss, I don't want to lean out of the window too much, but this is really a misdevelopment. I think there's a strategy behind it, but I don't want to polarize it.
It's definitely a nice insight you gave us on the topic of cholesterol. It was very helpful. There were a lot of good tips. Maybe 1 or 2 family doctors will watch and say, I've never heard of it, I never had time to read it. It's great that you share your knowledge with us, dear Thomas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Dear viewers, I hope you were able to take a lot with you to get the cholesterol level to an optimal level and not too low. And of course, that you stay fit and healthy. Thank you for watching and see you soon. Bye.